The Honourable Governor for Oro.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for recognizing the people of Oro. I want to add to this debate and firstly thank and commend the good Minister for bringing this report to Parliament. But just there are my thoughts in regards to the provincial government and how it's faring and how we could improve things together. I feel that first and foremost, a review of the 95 reforms is well overdue. I've said this a number of times. Those reforms were expected to do great things, improve things, but they haven't. And in many instances, they've created more problems. Whilst they've brought some benefits, and perhaps we should look at retaining these benefits, we should look at the destruction that they've conducted or committed and how we can repair these destructive reforms that were introduced in 1995. I remember before 95, the districts and stations in all our provinces were functioning. They had power, electricity, public servants were in these districts and stations. There was law and order. Districts and stations were functioning with funding coming directly from Waigani. There were extension programs, health, agricultural extension programs. There were many thriving economies, and the people lived and thrived in these districts and stations. Many of them did not actually go to their town centers, their capitals, because they didn't feel like they needed to. Everything they needed, they found them in their districts and stations. But after the reforms, you fast forward to today, you don't have to go far. You can just drive to, say, any district or station in Central Province, and so it's a Central Province, the whole country. But I'm using this as an example for the purposes of demonstrating what I'm about to say. And you'll find that these districts and stations are no longer functioning. They have public servants there, but they're only receiving the salary and wages. They're not able to do anything with that. They're not receiving their functional grants. They're not receiving their station grants, their district grants that are for them to maintain these districts and stations. There's no law and order. Elephant grass is growing there. And people, those mini economies have dried up, leading to massive urban drift and explosion. People are now drifting away from the districts and stations and flocking into the town centers to look for better services, better lives. And we can't blame them. These were brought about by the 95 reforms. A system that wasn't broken, but we fixed it. We fixed something that wasn't broken. Why? What brought these reforms about? And at that time, the premiers were in their provinces, and they were convinced. They were convinced by the lure of coming to Waigani, the possibility of an additional wage salary for being a governor in the parliament. And they all agreed to this. They didn't read the fine print. The fine print basically said that with the pretext of decentralization, there would be actually greater centralization. And provinces which were moving towards greater autonomy became ever more dependent than then. And they are ever more dependent now. All of us are lining up at Waigani chasing our funds all the time. And these districts and stations have become deteriorated, dilapidated shadows of what they used to be. So therefore, I feel that we have to go back to those 95 reforms and find out where we went wrong. What good came out of those reforms and what good didn't come out of those reforms and what destruction was committed. How do we fix this? So I would say, Minister, that these reforms are well overdue. We've all been saying this. I've heard this said by many governors, and even some open members have alluded to this. Let's do this. Let's review those reforms. As for the reporting and what's going on in the provinces, these are the responsibilities of national government agencies. Department of Personal Management, for instance, Department of Finance, Department of Provincial and Local Level Government. You should be checking on the public servants in the province. That should not be the responsibility of just the governor or the open member. That should be the responsibility of the public servants here at Waigani. If they don't receive a quarterly report, an officer should be keeping tabs on who is sending these reports. And when that report does not arrive at a certain date on a certain time of that date, that officer should be immediately contacting his provincial counterpart and saying, where is your report? You're overdue by a week. And warn them then and there, correct it then and there. And if funds have been sent to the province, to the districts, then you need to follow those funds and find out what has happened to those funds. That's not happening. And are those funds being remitted? We budget, let's say, for maybe 120 million a year. Does 120 million actually make it to our province? I can tell you it doesn't. We probably get about 40–50%. So what happens to that other remaining 60–50%? Where did it go? Those are questions that the public servants here should be asking. And they should be holding the provinces to account then and there, not waiting and then writing a report 2, 3, 4 years later. Then and there. And if the report's not coming in, find out why. Send audit teams. Send audit teams immediately. They turn up at the province. They call the responsible division in, sit him down, the administrator, the deputy administrator, the provincial finance manager, sit them down and say, right, we have problems here. 1, you have not submitted your report. Where is your report? 2, did you receive all these monies? What did you receive? Oh, you received this much. What did you do with it? What have you done with it? And through this process, you help these provinces improve in the administration. That's what has to happen. That's not happening. Department of Personal Management. Look at the provincial structures. Look at the positions that are supposed to be there. Do they have a principal legal officer? Do they have a legal affairs division? Do they have a HR division that's functioning? Who's holding the provincial administrator to account? Where are his KPIs? Who's measuring that? Who's bringing him in quarterly and sitting him down and saying, you are failing in this regards, you need work on that area, you're doing fine here, what are your concerns? That's not happening. Classic example, in our province we've passed our restructure, but we can't do anything about it because there's no funds. For 3 years we've been unable to roll out this restructure. So for provinces to function, they need the help of national government. But national government entities, public servants that are responsible, have to do their jobs. That's not happening. There's lack of connectivity between Waigani and the provinces. And if the provinces are to function, they should be given their full funds. Give them their full funds. And then when they don't expend those funds accordingly, then you can hold them to account. What happens with many provinces is that they only get a portion of their funds, so they prioritize. They prioritize, and they prioritize in such a way that unfortunately some programs are left out. And if you go to the remote districts and stations, especially the most remotest parts of a province, that's where you'll see real grim situations because they're not getting the funds they need to function, to be active, be the thriving hubs that they're supposed to be, providing the goods and services to our people as expected. So, Minister, just my thoughts. I really think that we have to take a serious view towards conducting a thorough review of the 95 reforms and find out where we went wrong, what we can do to improve from there on. 2, the reporting mechanisms. These government agencies, your department, Department of Personal Management, Department of Finance, they're supposed to be out there monitoring and reviewing how provinces are performing with the administration and with their use of the funds that they have received. And I think that's the way we will be able to progress collectively as a nation. And I'm all for imposing penalties on provinces that are not performing. But in order to do that, let's get all the funds that are due to these provinces first. I hear questions that were asked by the ECB governor. He's absolutely correct. All provinces have not yet received their functional grants. This is very serious. Midway through the year, the purpose of functional grants is so that we can function. Without functional grants, very difficult to function. I hear the Treasurer state that, yes, there are funds in some provinces. Those funds have been tied to development projects. Anyway, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.